Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons. Today, breaking down the first episode of What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps. This episode is written by Matthew Chauncey and directed by Stephen Frank, who created a comic book that's just as eerie, so I'm so excited to go over this episode with y'all and celebrate another badass project for Nebula. But first, the merch drop. We have some merch inspired by What If, so go over to nerdriot.shop to go check that out. We opened with the Marvel Studio logo, slightly different from last season's because it started with the full-on Marvel intro. This one begins with the comic pages and into the brushstroked Marvel logo. The last time we got this logo, I believe, was in I Am Groot, and that's also the last time we technically saw the Watcher in the finale of season 2. The intro is ominous. It's silent during the logo, but starts to ease into an uncanny echo like the deep, dark sounds of a barren city. Faint noises of what's left follow, and we're taken to a rainy, deep teal city skyline. This, we find out later, is Xandar. Last we heard of Xandar in the MCU, Thanos destroyed it, retrieving the Power Stone, but we never actually saw it happen. But we did hear Thor bring it up to the Guardians in Infinity War. Xandar is also a major part of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and we'll get back into that in a second when we get further into the show. This episode is completely modeled after Blade Runner, specifically the 1982 one starring our favorite person in the world, Harrison Ford. Ooh, yummy, yummy. The writers of What If at the What If event at the Disney Studio lot that we all attended mentioned a lot of these episodes are fashioned after their favorite 80s movies. So I think the idea that the Grandmaster episode is fashioned after Mad Max is no surprise. We have the 80s icons in What If. Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes. 80s Kurt Russell, Hank Pym, voiced by the 80s icon Michael Douglas. The list goes on. This is going to be a nostalgic season. This scene, though, is fashioned after Blade Runner at the very end, when it's raining, the deep teal tone after Pris dies and Roy is hunting Deckard. There are so many Blade Runner homages that I'll call them as I see them as we go throughout the episode. We open with the skyline of Xandar. Just like in Blade Runner, the first scene we see in that movie is the Los Angeles skyline, dark but lit by the flames and distant lights in the city. It's like the Peter Pan ride at Disneyland that has all the little lights everywhere. It's not exactly like eye for eye the same shot, but it's very similar, and we're going for the same tone just on Xandar. The same neon lights illuminate the gritty, dirty alleyway-like streets. Again, this is Blade Runner and Nebula is our Deckard, but she's standing over Yondu's dead body like Gaff after he killed Roy. Nebula, still voiced by Karen Gillan, narrates this like the usual suspects, and she says this right here.
A place where everyone's luck eventually runs out, even Yondu's.
He's clearly been shot in the back and the body ain't even cold yet. You can see the smoke leaving the wound, a bigger hole in his back than in Pris's gut. I like how they even got Yondu's scars on the side of his head design in this episode. What's funny is when Yondu was on Xandar during Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, he didn't have that fin yet. He didn't get the longer prototype fin until Volume 2 when he was hostage and Groot and Kraglin had to steal it for him. Nebula saunters from the shadows like a black cat in her Nova Corps uniform. Ooh. The writers really liked working with Karen Gillan, so they wanted to fashion an episode around her, and I love that because Karen is Nebula and Nebula is Karen. They even animated that sassy, unimpressed stance that Nebula has. Right when Nebula questions who killed Yondu, a bright light beams behind her and it's the rest of the Nova Corps on their ropes crashing down. One Nova Corps officer says this.
Coleman Nebula.
So she's just an average Nova Corps officer like John C. Reilly's character in the first Guardians movie at the beginning. It's Saul, the Denarian Nova Corps soldier. He died fighting Rodan during the Battle of Xandar in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. As opposed to his character in this episode of What If, he was highly respected. He was also really funny. He had a code of honor with the Nova Corps. Saul force feeds everyone a false narrative without even organizing a full-on investigation in this episode, waving Yondu off as a petty criminal, which is exactly what he said about Quill coming to Xandar in the first Guardians movie, assuming it was all a trick. This is already following the 80s good cop, bad cop organization themes. This feels like Dark Blue with Kurt Russell or Copland with Sylvester Stallone or even Training Day with Ethan Hawke and Denzel Washington. If you like this, you'll probably like those movies. Saul says this.
I don't need Black Order trash telling me how to do my job.
The Black Order was Thanos' gang, also referred to as the Children of Thanos. They were never called the Black Order in the MCU that I know of, just the Children of Thanos. In the lead up to Infinity War, marketing materials referred to them as the Black Order. This is how we knew Black Dwarf was renamed Cull Obsidian, because in recent comics, the group was known as Cull Obsidian. As a unit, we know in the MCU included Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight, Cull Obsidian, and Corvus Glaive. And also technically at one point at home, Gamora and Nebula when they fought alongside their father. Fun fact, they're called the Black Order because each of their name has something to do with night and darkness. Also, they bring unyielding power to the cosmos. That part I made up, but also it's kind of true. Regardless, this is our first indicator that Nebula was once working for her father, as we already knew from her past, but instead of aligning with her sister and the Guardians, she wound up on Xandar. Nebula argues former Black Order and interjects that she got 3 stars just like Saul. And this is a reminder that the Xandar Nova Corps officers have 3 stars on their armor representing 3 sons of Xandar. And we don't really see the process they go through to become Nova Corps officers, but I assume that's what Nebula's talking about. Nebula gets into her hover police car that I don't think was at all featured on Xandar. This is a ship modeled after the police car in Blade Runner, the Spinner. It is even equipped with butterfly doors. Then we get to the opening scene for What If, with the Watcher narrating, and of course is still voiced by Jeffrey Wright, our #1 man. It begins the same way as last season did, but when it cracks after seeing Captain America Steve Rogers, we see Gamora's where Ramonda used to be, a portal created by Strange Supreme where Dr. Strange used to be. I think this may be Cohorti's episode. Above Strange is T'Challa from last season, then Ultron Vision from last season. Next to T'Challa, it looks like young Steve Rogers. We now have Heimdall from last season. Above Heimdall is Thor, Blue Loki, aka Loki as the full frost giant from last season, Peggy Carter, the Hydra logo, Zombie Wanda, Gwen Wu Spider-Man, the eyeball of Bruce changing into the Hulk in the last season. Then it shifts. We got Cohorti, Nebula, Yondu, Topaz, all to say these shots and cracks in the universes are pieces from last season and this season, creating infinite realities, infinites to the unknown. The past, present, and future of our realities have no authority here. Not even the man who watches it has complete control. We're ascending into chaos and parallel universes to our own, but shifted off its axis. A mirror to the universe, something that's always changing and expanding, can't have the same reflection. Let's get into this before I go crazy. Our guide and the ending of the intro are the same, a silhouette which we got from last season of the Watcher's big ol' noggin. It's full of stars and endless space like his view of reality. He brings us into the episode again, narrating, of course,
all quests for redemption begin in darkness.
Which immediately reminded me of Loki and how he's at the end of time alone in darkness, but conquering his fear of being alone and protecting all the streams of time. And also Wanda collapsing Wonder Gore onto herself, Zuri dying to save T'Challa, I'd argue Tony Stark in the cave. Physical and metaphorical darkness, redemption isn't new for the MCU. In Guardians of the Galaxy, Nebula did try to betray Thanos alongside Ronan, but here we see Ronan did all the betraying and kicked Nebula out of the family business along with killing Gamora. She floated in space like Gamora when she betrayed Thanos and Nebula blew her up. Regardless, Nebula is founded by Nova Prime and saves her by beaming her out of space like their ships are known to do. Nova Prime is voiced by Julianne Grossman here. In the movie, she was played by Glenn Close. The Nova Corps headquarters is identical to how it looks in Guardians of the Galaxy, with the iconic Nova Corps symbol. The Nova Corps motto is "Seek the light, be the light, never stray from its path," which was never mentioned before. Then Ronan attacks Xandar. Cue the Battle of Xandar. This still did happen in our reality, but with the help from the Ravagers brought together by Quill, there wasn't really anyone to help. Additionally, Thanos fell to Ronan, and Ronan was still on a mission to take down Xandar. In this reality, he never screamed his plan in front of Nebula, I assume, so he just destroyed her family and her. Having a bad habit is like having your own personal nemesis, a little goblin sitting upon your shoulder, constantly tempting you to post that hot take, but with Fume, you get that goblin out of there once and for all. That's because Fume was made to help replace your bad habits with good ones that you're free to enjoy. It's an innovative, award-dominated device with no electronics, no vapor, and no harmful chemicals. Fume is completely natural and uses all natural ingredients to give you a burst of delicious flavored air. Fume is super fidgety, which is helpful for distressing while you break your old habit. Each device has an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets. And the new Solano Fume is made with a premium walnut barrel and an onyx coated mouthpiece that has a slightly softer finish if you're feeling fancy. And I'm always feeling fancy. Using Fume gives you a nice moment just for yourself, especially when it's cold out or the air is brisk. Maple pepper warms me up, but like in my brain. It's a maple pepper thing, trust me. We all put off stopping our bad habits because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 150,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason you can't be one of them. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use code NEWROCKSTARS to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code NEWROCKSTARS to save an additional 10% off your order today. Here, Nova Prime decided to put Xandar within a planetary shield, but in the movie, they put a shield around the Dark Aster. They linked up and made a barricade that didn't really work. In a specific comic, the Watcher did get involved and save Xandar by placing them in a biosphere, and this could be a sort of call out to that. The shield doors are like the inner workings of a processor. When they close the shields on Xandar, it's different than the ones on Wakanda. This is like a sci-fi, futuristic computer security processing chip. Hackers. Nebula notes it's been 5 years in, and isolation has made the people of Xandar wild. Clearly, Yondu and Nebula have been working together. From Saul's quick insult of Yondu earlier and Nebula being a person of honor now, I would assume Yondu is like an informant for Nebula at times, like Quill did for Roman Day. Maybe Nebula is like him and Yondu is like Quill. She plays Yondu's iconic whistle to find the arrow, then catches it. We know the arrow is used with your heart and your feelings, but I don't think Nebula has even those two things. Good to note though that it still works if you just use Yondu's voice. The hearts are still in the hologram. Nebula opens an entire database on information on Yondu's arrow. A green ball illuminates an orb of instructions. It's like schematics with similar prints as the closing shield on Xandar. When Nova Nova Prime begins scheming and switches to the other line. I know it's just for dramatic effect, but I love the changing of the colors to red. It is so good. When Nebula gets off the phone with Nova Prime, the sound changes to something distinct from Blade Runner. It's like the reverberation of a synthesizer.
I won't let you down.
Nebula dives down onto the streets of Xandar, and it's giving 2099 from Across the Spider-Verse, and it looks like the inspiration would be directly from Sid Mead. Inside this casino, it's bumping. Hurd is working a table, and we see the money he picks up. We rarely see currency in the MCU unless it's digitally given, but these cosmic dice-like ones are written in Xandarian. These brown coins are probably the equivalent to poker chips. We see meat cutting fish, and it's just superb. The slot machine is clearly a loser, but we see our man Drax pissed about losing. He's next to old people that have to jump on him to control him. Also, all the machines look like they were designed by the Grandmaster. Then we meet Korg, the bartender, still voiced by Taika Waititi. Nebula says is the big man in, a subtle jab, but also probably a pseudonym on this planet because he's very small, and you know how like the Don always goes by like a funny name? The casino resembles the casino from the first Black Panther movie. They're different styles for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is where they got their inspiration. We see our favorite background character, Howard the Duck, still played by Seth Green. He loves playing cards, just like in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with Kraglin. Those cards do resemble the cards that they were playing with, they just have different designs. Howard's outfit is very scummy. A purple suit with zebra print accents and a gold chain. This is literally a Halloween costume you can actually buy at like Spirit Halloween. He jokes and asks if Nebula wants megabytes because she's a cyborg and he's so freaking funny. So we learn via Korg this is an old city mainframe core, a unit B42.
The hodgepodge, actually. Sanitation department, metadata, unpaid parking tickets, rush hour statistics, source code for the shield generator, even an actual kitchen sink.
Nebula's now on her way to see Yon Rogg. Yon Rogg was the piece of crap Kree that actually worked with Ronan to wipe out the Skrulls. He wiped Carol's memories and made her believe the Skrulls were terrorists and manipulated her for a while. At the end of Captain Marvel, he's blasted back to Hala with a message, and that's the last we see of him. But Nebula mentions this is someone that's infiltrated Xandarian systems before. In Star Force on the Rise, this is a prequel to Captain Marvel where they actually find themselves on Xandar, and Yon Rogg was tasked to infiltrate Sigil, a Xandarian-controlled planet, to get the schematics for a weapon, so he's infiltrated Xandarian systems before for sure. In this universe, Nebula arrested Yon Rogg for it. Additionally, we should all remember Yon Rogg worked with Ronan because they're both Kree and wanted to wipe out more Skrulls. We see Yon Rogg's prison sheet, and it's all Xandarian letters that don't really make anything out. It's just miscellaneous numbers and letters everywhere. The prison that homes Yon Rogg is actually the Clemons from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. This was the facility run by the Nova Corps, but it wasn't on Xandar. This one looks like it's on Xandar. Nebula hands off her Xandarian weapons to this sort of droid. In the first movie, Nova Corps and their associates on Killen did the processing, but there were some robots assisting them occasionally throughout the movie. We're now inside the Nova Corps prison, and the prisoners are yelling at Nebula just like they did her sister. It's funny because she's the cop that put them all in there, but Gamora just betrayed and ruined everyone's lives with Thanos, so it's kind of like poetic justice. We met Yon Rogg, who's still voiced and played by Jude Law. He's wearing the same prison clothes the Guardians wore in the earlier movie. Nebula shoots the lock screen that keeps Yon Rogg in, and it looks like the shards of the intro to What If. The prison looks hella dark and scary, unlike the one in Guardians. That one looked actually really fun. Nebula releases all the inmates with the tablet. In the movie, I think Groot just released them by ripping out the important cables in the wall. She knocks out a Skrull, and there are other Skrulls around them fighting for their lives, so it feels wrong that they're all locked up and Yon Rogg's the one being released. They escape the prison in the hover police car that flies away the exact same way the Blade Runner one does. Even the top of the building they break into is exactly like the Tyrell Corporation Tower from Blade Runner. They walk to the data core in the water. I assume this is like the Xandarian world mine from the comics, which houses all knowledge of Xandar and the Nova Corps. Though this is more of the Xandarian world mine, it's giving the Supreme Intelligence from the first Captain Marvel movie. Even the water is included. The mainframe core says Omega class cybernetic organism detected. Normally in Marvel, Omega levels refer to a mutant with one single mutant power. In this case, I think it must refer to how advanced Nebula is as a cyborg, but also an organic being. Nebula connects herself to the mainframe, and we've seen her do this throughout the MCU before, but then Yon Rogg betrays her and steals the information from her head, which is still attached to the mainframe, so it recognizes the threat, which is tethered to Nebula, so it's about to implode. Her eyes turn red, which reminds me of when they turn bright when she's taken apart by Thanos, a horrible scene. Then the scene turns red. The color switches from heavenly to like garbage yellow and green mixed with red accents. It's all beautiful and horrible at the same time. Nebula's on edge of a small sewage drop-off where the water exits. It's revealed that it's all been a setup, and Yon Rogg is working with Nova Prime. I guess the 5 years of isolation just really messed up Nova Prime. She became a crazy psychopath woman. They beat Nebula with cattle prods, which they beat Peter with in the first Guardians movie when he wanted his music back. Also, if I hear Nebula scream one more time in this universe, I'll lose my mind. I'm so tired of this woman being destroyed and torn into pieces. She jumps off the cliff, and this went from Blade Runner to Emperor's New Groove real quick. This also isn't her first time falling off an edge of anything. When Nebula lays on the casino table being fixed up, we get some Xandarian code. We tried translating everything that had text, but each time we came up with like gibberish. It was just miscellaneous like Xandarian like words and numbers, which is fine. It's still the Xandarian language, it just doesn't really make anything. Howard calls them rock, paper, scissors, a callback to earlier, seeing them play rock, paper, scissors in the form of rock, paper, scissors. I like that when you play rock, paper, scissors, you can always end it with shoot, and you know, Howard the Duck's there, and he could be the shoot, because people shoot ducks. Nebula wears Yondu's fin, whistle, and arrow in his duster. She just like grabbed it off his dead body. Dead body's still in the street. It just doesn't, I don't know why she took it. She didn't need to take the jacket. It looks cool. Then we get the team up of the Sentry. Groot seems to be wearing a bulletproof vest. Nebula donning the Yondu duster and attitude with the arrow hovering at attention. Then my man Howard the Duck in Rambo gear and Korg's right.
Right, so we all look cool.
Nebula uses the arrow like Yondu on the ship, coming for everybody. And then Yon Rogg is back in his outfit from Captain Marvel. Korg smashes Saul and Yon Rogg like Hulk did Loki in the Avengers movie. Nova Prime jumps into the classic Nova Star ship to get away from Nebula. Like an idiot, Nova Prime dies. The shield opens and the sun allows the light back in. It feels like the ending of the Marvels with the Kree homeworld and how like it lost its smog, it gained the sun. Something LA needs to do. Howard calls Nebula supernova, which has a little homage to it. The Crab Nebula is a supernova, but also the fact that she's the best damn Nova officer they have now. And then Howard quacks like a normal duck. And we close with this beautiful, probably digital paintings of different parts of Xandar. It's incredible. The casino, the alleyways, the breathtaking images. These just remind me of the concept art from Across the Spider-Verse. And a lot of these painters and designers for this episode probably created this as original concept art that they just put in the end credits. And that's it for my breakdown on episode 1 of What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps. Ooh. I hope everybody cosplays as this character now because she's badass. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Lulu_Clemons. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next episode.